Hi there, and welcome to today's relationship coaching session where I'm going to run through two key things for you. The first is really around infidelity prevention, and the second is how to recover from it if and when it happens. And this is just going to be a short session to outline a model which I've put together called the Infidelity Timeline. And it's based on my experience helping thousands of couples over the years and working personally with hundreds of individuals and couples to help overcome these types of challenges in their relationships. Just in case you don't know who I am, I'm Steve Bradshaw, relationship coach. I've worked now with couples to really help them improve communication, feel more connected, avoid separation ultimately, and learn to thrive in their relationships and really switch up patterns so they've got long-term habit change. That's the key. We're not just changing things for a couple of weeks and then things go back to the way they were. This is about really getting to the root cause of why we experience some of these challenges and how some of these strategies can really help you overcome them. And awareness is one of the first key points. And if you've got that understanding of how this plays out across the infidelity timeline, then hopefully that's going to stand you in good stead, and give you something a little bit different to how you may have looked at the situation in the past. So I'm going to share my screen for you now, and we'll just run through what this looks like, and hopefully it'll be an interesting model for you to consider. I mean, there's the natural ebb and flow of relationships, and sometimes you feel a bit more love for your partner than you do at other times. I know there've been times. I mean, I've been together with my wife now for nearly 18 years, so of course there's periods where you don't agree on things and you're struggling to overcome particular challenges, and that's natural with the ebb and flow. But if there's a serious disconnect for a period of time, then this is when it really needs to be addressed, because there might be something that's really pissed you off about your partner, and then you try and find a way of navigating through it. But if there's this serious disconnect, you've got this real low vibe, this low energy between you, you just don't feel like you've got each other's back, and the trust has started to wane. And the trust is often those little things that you say or do. It's not necessarily the big acts of infidelity at this stage, but it's just those little doubts that you have as to whether the other person's really got you back and understand you on a deeper level. And you can begin to feel quite isolated and lonely, and there can be a heightened anxiety around this time. And this is a key part of often what leads to infidelity going forward. So it's recognizing that there's nearly always, often based on my experience, a period of disconnect prior to anything else happening with regard to infidelity. And a lot of it comes down to the basic needs that we have. And often, we don't understand exactly what they are because they kind of get mixed in with everything else. But the key needs that we tend to have are a need for certainty. So you want to feel that there's a level of security and reliability in the relationship, in your partner, that you're really heading somewhere, and you've got that feeling of reliability that you're both in this together, and you've both got this alignment that you're aiming for. Naturally, you want to feel a variety, an element of variety in your relationship as well. So that kind of counteracts it. You want a bit of spontaneity. You want things to be a bit different at times. And that can be a really highly motivating factor for infidelity itself. But I'll come on to that in a moment. But it's about finding variety in the relationship, so that you can both meet that need for yourself and each other, but in a really healthy way. The other thing we want to feel in our relationships is significant. We want to feel that our partner makes us feel significant, that they believe we are significant, that we're making a difference to their lives, and that we can make a difference to their lives. And once that starts to reduce, then this can also lead to the disconnect. Few other things: we want to feel that we're growing. We want to feel that we're actually learning about ourselves and each other in the relationship. We want to feel that we're contributing in an equal balance. And ultimately, we want to feel that connection. So these needs, these basic kind of six needs, can be met either inside or outside of the relationship. So it's really recognizing if these needs are not being met, what needs to change during this disconnect phase so that you're not putting yourself in a position where you might be tempted to look for these needs being met outside of the relationship, which could ultimately lead to cheating and infidelity. I'm not saying that everyone cheats just because they feel disconnect at this point, but it certainly increases the chances. So this includes, things like flirting with colleagues, having conversations, sometimes drunken conversations when you're a little bit more loose-tongued, and that can then lead astray and go down a path that you don't want to go down. But generally, sort of fantasizing about cheating at this stage and how that might happen can start to feed that ego in you that this is going to be exciting. This is going to be something that I really need, and um, it's something that I need to do at this stage to make myself feel better. So really, it's about prevention at this stage. And as exciting as it might seem to cheat and to have that relationship outside of your main one, I've seen it time and time again. It just leaves such a big mess behind, that it's just not worth it at all. But if you can open up early on in this stage, really talk about your needs with your partner and really open up and create that safe space, this is definitely the time to do it, during that disconnect phase. But obviously, don't approach it with a list of complaints, or criticisms. Instead, just be curious. How they're feeling at the moment, and try and represent how you're feeling as best you can, and how you can help each other feel better and help each other fulfill some of those needs that you both have in the relationship, those needs for certainty, those needs for an element of variety, to feel that you contribute into the relationship, to have a feeling of growth, that you're aligned and you're heading in the right direction. So those types of things, just to make sure that you feel that you're fully committed to the relationship, and outline that you are fully committed to the relationship as well. You want to reassure your partner at this stage that you are fully committed, but have this open conversation about how needs are being met, and just reassure them at this stage that you do want to meet their needs, and you want that to be reciprocal. So you've got this opportunity during a disconnect phase to start to step up, to start to open the communication, create that safe space between you. Now, if you feel those needs are not being met within the relationship, it's possible at this stage that a new connection can form, and it can form through those various different ways. And it's usually because there's a disconnect in the relationship. If you were fully entangled with your partner, if you were getting on really well, you were feeling the same energy, feeling the same vibe, it would be far less likely for this to happen. And if you think back to some of the earlier stages in your relationship, you probably didn't even notice other people, or the attractiveness of other people to the same extent, because you were just focused, you were in the relationship. And so really, again, it's about opportunity at this stage, and making sure that you're not creating opportunities for yourself to connect with other people at this deep level. So again, work, socials, clubs that you might be a part of, etc. Just taking measures, making sure the measures are in place so that you reduce those intimate relationships forming, and having an awareness around the damaging impacts of that. Now, if it does go over the line and it becomes an affair, then I guess you can define it really in a few different ways. I mean, some will say emotional affairs, some physical. It's an unfaithful line that's crossed ultimately, and the main reason why this happens is because we've spoken about needs. Obviously, those play an important part. But there is actually a study that took place in 2019. I'll just bring my screen back here, because I can share with you an article that I wrote a year or so back now, via my website. And this actually outlines the main reasons why people cheat, which is really interesting to raise at this stage. Yeah. So this was a study back in 2019. I just thought it would be interesting to bring up on screen for you here. And it's an article I wrote a year or so back. So you can go to rebootingrelationships.com, have a look through the blog section, and you'll see this here. Interestingly, these were the results, based on the study that they did. But sexual desire was actually eighth. It wasn't the most popular reason why people cheat at all. And that was quite surprising. So it's certainly not all about sex. Um, Seventh place was not feeling fully committed. So again, this is where the underlying needs come in that I was discussing a little bit earlier on, because that feeling that your partner isn't in it, that you're not in it, it creates that uncertainty. You're certainly not fulfilling that certainty need. So you think, oh well, I'll have that excitement. I'll do something else outside of the relationship as a result. Sometimes a lot of anger and resentment can build up. If your needs aren't being met, you don't feel that you're heard and understood in the relationship, then it can bring up a lot of anger and frustration. And to get back at your partner, it can feel like that's a motivation. Boosting self-esteem is an interesting one. So a lot of people just want that ego to be fed. It's understandable. We've always got that drive to have that ego satisfied, and have a feeling of fulfillment on that side. Situational forces, and the top three were feeling neglected. So again, that ties into the needs. The second most popular was a desire for variety. Again, that's another big need that we all have. And falling out of love or a loss of emotional connection, was the top one. So thought that'd be interesting just to share that. You can read that full article on the website as well. If you head over there, then you'll be able to read more about it. So those are some of the reasons why we might have that affair, and what that might look like. The affair might last longer. It might be very short. And it's not really to scale at this stage, but there's normally a period of disconnect. There's normally a period of time where there's a new connection that's evolving, that's developing from a friendship into a little bit more, and then it goes over the line of what's acceptable and what's the boundary has definitely been crossed, and then we're into this affair territory, emotional, physical, or otherwise, and that will last for a period of time. Now, after a while, the truth will come out. So whether that is because the affair ends, whether something gets found out, something's revealed, but the truth will come out at some point. And this is where we enter a period of pain and discomfort. And there's a lot to process here, a lot to understand. And there's different things to consider, really. There will definitely always be discomfort and pain, unfortunately, at this point. And there is a recovery process. So once the truths come out there, there's usually 6 stages of recovery. Dennis Ortman writes really well around this. And it's very similar to the grief recovery process. But it's really shock initially, the intrusive thoughts that the person has who's been betrayed, and starts to really overthink and really overanalyze everything that's happened. They may start entering into a bargaining process, with the person who's betrayed them. They then go through usually quite a low period, maybe depression, but certainly a very low period of energy and outlook whilst they're processing a lot of these feelings. And there will then be a period of acceptance, and a reality that, okay, this has happened. I've got a choice now as to what I'm going to do going forward. Am I going to move forward and stay in the relationship? Is the boundary that's crossed just too much for me to cope with and too much to handle? So knowing how best to navigate this period is going to be vitally important if and when an affair has taken place, because there's a lot of important decisions to make. So you want to understand how to make those important decisions, how to process feelings of guilt and shame for the person who has had the affair, and also how to process the recovery emotions for the person who has been the victim, if you like, in this situation. So creating that safe space for you both, again, at that point is going to be so vitally important as part of the reconnection process. So the reconnection then is about creating this brand new relationship. So there's a great opportunity to have a new and improved relationship on the one that you had originally before the affair, because there was that period of disconnect. Prior to that, I'm sure it was a great relationship in many ways, but it's about recognizing that There were things that happened during that disconnect phase which you can both take a level of responsibility for. That's really important as part of the recovery to actually acknowledge that there were things that happened on both sides, the dynamic that was created between the two of you during that disconnect. Um, it, that there was a level of responsibility for both of you. So that can be really important. But really to share new experiences at this stage, to communicate in a different way to how you've communicated in the past, have new relationship rules, new boundaries, and create a more positive plan for your future together. So this is about creating a new relationship that's built on these new boundaries, these new values, these new experiences, and often it's a better one than you had originally because you've had this very painful experience that you've both grown through, and hopefully it's developed a stronger bond between you than you have before. And I have a really detailed process for this as part of the programs that I work with, both individually and with couples. And as we go through, there's going to be then an acceptance that, okay, we can move forward together. My needs are being met inside the relationship now. We genuinely have each of the other's best interests at heart. And it's about rebuilding a happier future so that you feel stronger together. You've got a deeper love and bond than you have before. So that's one version of the timeline as it could play out potentially. Now, there is another version to this. And I want to make this really, really clear because this is centered around the level of truth that you reveal when everything comes out. Because this is the one of the most important parts of trying to recover from infidelity. So what can happen in a lot of cases is the truth comes out and there is that initial pain, shock, and then the recovery process that you start to go through. The difficulty is that the truth is drip fed through. So this causes as much damage as the infidelity itself. And I can't stress this enough because what happens is the betrayed partner thinks all the truth has come out and they think they're able to then, right, accept everything that's been done, everything that's been said, and they can begin to process that. But the difficulty is that if there's then additional truths that come out later, it's like all the building blocks have been knocked down and you've got to start rebuilding again. And that is so much harder the second time around because the person who's been betrayed has really opened themselves up to begin to trust the person again. But they keep on getting knocked back. And this happens time and time again. And I've seen this in my couples programs where it's been said that the truth is all out, but then more things get revealed and more things get revealed. And what happens then is you basically start the process again. Every single time you start the process again, where there's actually more pain, and it just keeps on compounding on top of each other. And it's really frustrating because all that work that was done up to that point is then undone, and the second time around, the third time around, to believe what the partner is telling you who's had the affair, it just becomes harder and harder. So but honesty is so important, and I understand why people aren't 100% honest because of the guilt and the shame that they feel about the things they've done. They want to actually protect their partner, and it's driven through love, really, and that they want to protect their partner from the whole truth. But being 100% honest is vitally important. Otherwise, this will happen and it can continue to play out. And then that's when it is really difficult to recover from that. So it's not necessarily about being graphic and too detailed with every single element of truth, but it's just leading with honesty, so that we can prevent continuing the pain for a longer period of time. So that's really important. And then in terms of recovery, I think it's just really nice to consider and really important to consider the broader picture of all this. So if you approach the recovery process in the right way, it doesn't need to dominate the relationship forever. It can be a relatively short period of time. And like I say, the relationship can go on to be stronger than it was before, and even with a deeper connection. through the rebuilding process. And one final strategy that couples adopt sometimes inside my programs is to actually write a timeline of events. So can this can provide real clarity for both sides, because it can outline then when the disconnect took place, why it took place, what the feelings were, the affair itself, the sort of key events of what actually happened within the affair. And then you could even put in a few extra details around the recovery process and the positive things that have happened during that period. But when we kind of zoom out and look at the full perspective of your relationship, there are lots of great moments. Obviously, just an example here in terms of it being 10 years, but let's say it was lots of incredible things happened on your relationship journey over that time. And then there's this period, which is really difficult to navigate, but with the right support, it can be it can be a really effective way of moving forward positively based on the experience you have. And then, of course, you've got lots of potential happy memories to look forward to in the future as well. So, to put into perspective how and why the things happened, and often how the dynamics played out, can have a really positive impact. So yeah, just a few ideas there in terms of this infidelity timeline and how that might work for you. So we're really looking at the key points of recognizing that period of disconnect when, if you're in that period at the moment, take some action, do something about that, open up the communication between the two of you, ask curious questions, open up about needs being met around those needs of certainty, variety, contribution, significance, all those things that are playing out between the two of you during that disconnect phase is a really great way of preventing this timeline from playing out in that way. And then it can just be a period of disconnect, and then you find connection again. If and when it goes down that infidelity route, there's going to be some pain. It's inevitable. There's going to be truth, because the truth will come out eventually. And then it's about navigating through that and putting it into perspective, but really being 100% honest. If there has been a mistake made, then to really be honest about that and outline the full truth at the beginning, rather than dragging it out and thinking that you're protecting your partner when really it's actually creating more challenges for them in the long run. So yeah, hopefully you found that helpful, giving you a little bit of perspective today, just a mini coaching session. Do reach out for me if you reach out to me if you have any additional questions. You can drop me an email, or there's usually my mobile number in and around my emails. So you can drop me a message there as well. But yeah, any questions, give me a shout. You take care for now, and I'll catch up with you again soon.